All right. 못. So, what is 못? This is for talking about things that you can't do. Things that you can't do. So the example sentence here is 오늘은 운동 못해요, which means I can't work out today, is what it means. So let's see what the 못 is doing in here. So when you add 못 to a sentence, you're talking about a lack of ability, similar to can't or cannot in English. Also, a little note, similar to an, which we talked about in the previous live stream, similar to an, 못 is conjugated differently when using separable versus non-separable hara verbs. We'll talk about that a little bit more soon. So how does it work? So you place 못 before the verb. So 먹다 is the verb meaning to eat. 먹다. So you just place 못 before the verb. 목 먹다, which means some subject cannot eat. So someone cannot eat. And now if you're going to conjugate this into the present tense, it would become 목 먹어요. I can't eat. 목 먹어요. 저는 못 먹어요. I can't eat. 저는 글루텐을 못 먹어요. I can't eat gluten. 고기를 못 먹어요. I can't eat pork. Let's have another example here. 가다. 가다 means to go. So when you're adding 못, you just place it before 가다 and it becomes 못 가다. 못 가다. 못 가다. I can't go. 파티에 못 가다. I can't go to the party. And then lastly, we have 보다. This is the book Conversational Korean Grammar. 보다 means to see or watch. So 못 보다 is to cannot watch. So let's look at some more example sentences. 저는 글루텐을 못 먹어요. I can't eat gluten. If you are gluten intolerant, this is a good sentence to know in Korean. What about this one? 사라는 고기를 못 먹어요. What does this mean in English? Yeah, I'm not a native speaker. I apologize. My pronunciation is not perfect. Be sure to follow native speakers to improve your pronunciation. Do not follow me. But what does this sentence mean in English? 사라는 고기를 못 먹어요. The author is a couple people, myself included. Also my partner Chelsea, and we worked alongside some Korean speakers as well. Anyone know what this means? Yeah. Thank you, A.V. Lackerman. Awesome. This means Sarah can't eat meat. And what about this one? I gave it away. 저는 이 영화를 못 봐요. I can't watch this movie. 못 봐요. I can't watch it. Sure. Yeah, no worries. It's a good tip to know. I'm not a native speaker, so. All right. So then the other important note to know about 못 is that when you're using a separable hada verb, it has to be placed between the noun and the verb. So what is a separable hada verb? Well, a separable hada verb, we talked about this in a previous lesson talking about hada verbs, but essentially a separable hada verb is formed by taking a noun and attaching hada to it to create an action. So for example, the noun 공부 is study, and when you attach hada to it, it becomes 공부하다, which means to do the action of studying. There are many verbs in Korean that are made up this way. For example, 운동하다, to exercise, 수영하다, to swim, etc., etc. And the key part of these verbs is that they are combined of a noun and a noun plus hada. And just like how you can join them together, you can also split them apart. So 운동을 하다 is the same as 운동하다. You can split them apart, 운동 and 하다, versus combine them together. This is the book Conversational Korean Grammar. But not every hada action verb in Korean is separable. Some verbs are non-separable. For example, 좋아하다 means to like something. But 좋아하다 is a non-separable hada verb. It always stays together as one verb because it is not combined of a noun and a verb. It is its own standalone word. And this is important because when you use 못 you have to place 못 between the noun and the verb when you're using separable 하다 verbs. So, for example, 공부하다, which is our verb meaning to study, you should place 못 between 안녕하세요. 네, hello. Between 공부 and 하다. So you can say 공부 못하다 or 공부를 못하다. The 를 is the action particle, the object particle, just to connect 공부 to the verb 하다, and this 못 goes in the middle. Now, if you get this the wrong way around and you put the 못 before, like we did in the previous examples, if you say 못 공부해요, everyone will understand you, right? There's no confusion. Everyone will still understand what you mean. But it's more natural to say 공부 못해요 or 공부를 못해요. So let's have another example. What about this one? So what would you say if you want to use 못 with 운동하다? 운동하다, firstly, anyone knows what 운동하다 means in English? What is this? What is this verb? Anyone know what 운동하다 is in English? Yeah, correct. Thank you, Nyla. It means to exercise. So if you want to conjugate this, what does it mean? Or to work out. Yeah, exercise or work out, they're both perfectly good translations. But if you want to conjugate 못 to 운동하다, what would you write? What should you write? There are kind of two options. You can either include the particle or you can drop it. So you've got sort of two options to use. Anyone want to have a guess? Yeah, okay. That's correct as well. 운동을 못해요. Yeah, amazing. Thank you, M. 운동을 못해요. Yeah, amazing. Good job. 운동 못해요 or 운동을 못해요. Amazing. Good job. And the last one as well. 요리하다 means to cook. So 요리 못해요 is to not be able to cook, to cannot cook. All right. So we have two example sentences here as well. 저는 공부 못해요. I can't study. Or Tom은 한국어를 공부 못해요. Tom cannot study Korean. 안녕하세요. Hello. I don't know why Tom can't study Korean, but in this sentence, Tom cannot study Korean. All right. So, what about the past tense? If you want to talk about something that you couldn't do in the past, oh, sure, I can try and slow down a little bit. Yeah, it's always good, actually, for me to try and talk more slowly and clearly. This book is Conversational Korean Grammar. So if you want to use the past tense, what you have to do is you have to conjugate the final verb into the past tense. So I can zoom in a little bit, perhaps. It's a little far away. So for example, 저는 빵을 못 먹었어요. So this is using the past tense marker here, 없어요. So in the present tense, it would be 못 먹어요. But in the past tense, it's 못 먹었어요. So 저는 빵을 못 먹었어요 means I couldn't eat bread. In the past, I couldn't eat bread. What about this next sentence? 사라는 고기를 못 먹었어요. What does this mean in English? So Sara is someone's name. So as for Sara, how do I say that in English? What can Sara not do? There you go. What is it that Sara cannot do? Sara cannot, or could not, sorry, because this is the past tense. Yeah, Sara can't eat meat. She couldn't eat meat, right? 고기를 못 먹었어요. She couldn't eat meat. And the last one, Tom은 한국어를 공부 못했어요. So again, this is using the past tense. 못했어요. So this means in the past, Tom couldn't study Korean. And it's the same when talking about the future tense. So in the future, you conjugate the final verb into its future form, 올 거예요. 올 거예요. So, 저는 공부 못할 거예요. In the future, what is in the future? I won't be able to study. 저는 공부 못할 거예요. What does this one mean in English? 저는 이 영화를 못 볼 거예요. So there's a couple vocabulary things in here. 영화 and 보다. Anyone can guess what this means in English. 저는 이 영화를 못 볼 거예요. Yeah. Amazing, Spy. Yeah, perfect. Good job. I won't be able to watch the movie in the future. Yeah, your local engine's got it. Shaked's got it. I won't be able to watch the movie. I won't be able to watch the movie or won't be able to watch this movie. In the future, I won't be able to watch a movie. Yeah, perfect. Amazing. Good job. And the last one. 저는 오늘 운동을 못할 거예요. 오늘 means today. So I won't be able to exercise today. 이 means this, yeah. 이 영화 means this movie. 이 음악, this music. 이 음식, this food, etc. Yeah. So, comparison. What's the difference between an and 못? So, an we talked about in the previous live stream. An is used to talk about things that you don't do. If you don't do something, you can use an. If you can't do something, if you lack the ability, you can use 못. So, either one you can use, it just changes the meaning of your sentence slightly. So, when you say an, for example, 저는 운동 안 해요, it means I don't exercise. That's a good question. 못 and 올 수 없어? Okay, I'll answer that question quickly. So they're very frequently interchangeable. They have a significant overlap in their usage. They're both used to talk about things you can't do. The slight difference, though, is that 못 tends to be used for things that kind of relate to you individually. So the reason you have for not being able to do something is specific to your ability or your skill or lack of skill. Whereas 올 수 없다 is sometimes more used for things that are kind of universal reasons, something that affects more people than yourself. So it's a general difference, but like I said, they're frequently interchangeable, and 못 and 올 수 없다 can be used interchangeably a lot of the time. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so, yeah, learning a language is never easy, unfortunately. But let's look at these two examples. So we have 저는 운동 안 해요 and 저는 운동 못 해요. If you say 저는 운동 안 해요, it means that you could exercise, you have the ability to exercise, but you choose not to. Whereas 저는 운동 못 해요 suggests that there's some reason preventing you from exercising. Perhaps you're injured or you're sick or some reason like that prevents you from exercising. So similarly, 저는 고기를 안 먹어요 means that you don't eat meat, meaning that you could eat meat if you wanted to, if you chose to, you could, but you choose not to eat meat. Whereas if you say 저는 고기를 못 먹어요, that means that you can't eat meat, so it suggests perhaps an allergy or maybe a religious reason to why you can't eat meat. So when you use them, you can just think about what you mean to say, what you intend to say, and choose between these two forms. And then also, this is a sort of an important difference. So in English, if you want to say to someone, I'm sorry, I don't speak Korean, we use don't, right? So maybe you think in Korean you should say this. 한국어를 안 해요 means I don't speak Korean. But actually, thank you, Wendy, it's available for purchase if you so desire. If you say 한국어를 안 해요, it implies that you could speak Korean, but you're choosing not to for some reason. And I can't think of a situation where you would want to say this. It's more natural to say this. 한국어를 못해요. Will it mean something bad? It doesn't mean necessarily something bad. It's just a bit odd. It's just a bit strange. People will think, like you don't speak Korean? Like you could, but you're not. They'll probably still understand what you mean, but 한국어를 못해요 means that you lack some ability, you lack some skill, you lack some confidence, whatever reason prevents you from speaking Korean. So if you want to say I don't speak Korean in Korean, you should say 한국어를 못해요. And someone just asked about the difference between 못 and 올 수 없다. We actually had someone ask that just before, but to summarize briefly again, 못 tends to be used for reasons that are individual to yourself, whereas 올 수 없다 is commonly used for reasons that affect a wider group of people, a universal reason, something that globally prohibits some things. But they're also very interchangeable. They're commonly used. Both of them are commonly used. So it's up to you, basically. This book is Conversational Korean Grammar. All right. So let's move on to G 못하다. An example of 올 수 있다 and 못하다. Sure. So let's say, let's compare, for example, 학교에 안 가요. Or 오늘은 학교에 안 가요. 학교에 못 가요. 오늘은 학교에 못 가요 means today I can't go to school, using 못. So when you use 못, you kind of suggest that you can't go to school for an individual reason. Perhaps you are sick, or you're tired, or I don't know, some other reason why you can't go to school personally. But if you say 오늘은 학교에 갈 수 없어요, I'm going to get there as well. If you say 학교에 갈 수 없어요, it maybe suggests that there's some other outside force that's preventing you from going to school. Like perhaps it's a snow day, so the school is closed for the day. Or it's, a holiday maybe, so no one's going to school. Something like that. Yeah.